Hello, everyone. Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me today. I'm Elena Rodriguez-Falcon, and I look like an LGBT engineer, if there is such a thing as looking as an LGBT engineer. But yes, a few months ago, I wrote about this precise topic, mainly because I had a conversation with various colleagues in my faculty. I work here at the university, and it became evident to me that they seem to think that we did not have any problems with the LGBT community in the faculty because they've never heard of any problems, which to some extent you think, huh, that kind of doesn't make sense. You haven't heard of any problems, therefore there aren't any. So I explored that a little bit more, and I said, okay, so how many people from the LGBT community do you know here in the faculty who are either students or staff? I could think of a few, only a few myself, but they could think only of one, stretching it a bit, two maybe, and the one was me. So didn't solve the problem very much, did it? But at the same time, to me, it started to ring alarm bells. For them, it was like, well, there's not a problem, is there? But for me, it worried me. A few months before that, I had been at a discussion panel at the University of Leeds, where we talked about LGBT and the professions. And we had a panel of people from the law, accountancy, management, myself, and we had about 50 students. About 2 or 3 were engineering students out of 50. So that's about 6% of the audience. And that really is crazy, isn't it? But it gets worse, gets much worse. Because the workplace equality index by Stonewall found out last year that 0.5% of our workforce in the UK who completed the survey worked for engineering firms. 0.5%. 0.5%, I hear you think, wow. Out of 20% of the workforce who declared to be LGBT across the country. 0.5% versus 20%. Okay, keep that in mind. So in my mind, there could be 2 possible explanations there. One is that either we are preventing people from the LGBT community to come into the profession, which I think there is something there. But also, could we be preventing people to be out in the profession, or either because they feel uncomfortable, we feel uncomfortable to be out, or because we are really putting barriers for openness of our sexuality in engineering. Now, in that discussion panel that I talked to you about, one of the engineering students asked me actually a direct question. He said, so when I graduate, I think he was an electrical engineering student, when I graduate, will I be able to progress if I'm out? And that question kind of begins to answer, I think, or at least unearth a little bit of what I think is happening here. So that's why I wanted to talk to you about this issue today. One of the colleagues asked me, but why does it matter? Why does it matter? And I think this colleague was she was curious, really. Why does it matter? And the student is asking, can I progress? I think that's why it matters. That's mainly why it matters, because people are worried about it. And I think that's one of the problems. In 2014, I don't know whether you're familiar with the Engineering and Technology magazine by the Institute of Engineering and Technology. In 2014, this magazine did a piece of research with 356 LGBT staff looking at their perceptions of being open in the workplace, whether sexuality had something to do with progression, and also examples of discrimination, direct discrimination. So what they found was that about 40%, about 40% over there, were out in the workplace, but they reported that they were out, but they felt either that they had lost direct contact or were less able to have conversations with their managers. They reported also that they had been overlooked maybe for promotions. About 17% reported that after being out, they felt they might have been overlooked from promotions. And they also felt that if they didn't fit the stereotype of the engineer, so for example, being a man, male, married to a woman, of course, with children, the wife would look after the children when they traveled, then you would not be able to progress. So that was part of their summary. Silver lining, though, 7.7% had reported direct discrimination. So 7.7, so that's a number to keep in mind. The rest, everyone, about 60%, they were not out due to fear of discrimination. They just would not come out. And I started to think, so if that's 356 is a very small number, but then again, 0.5%, 20%, God knows. You start to think, so if that's the case, and here in my faculty I know 2 or 3 people, there must be another 60% at least, or a group of people who are fearing discrimination. And what they said was that they felt that if they were out, they would lose interaction with their managers, similarly to what the other group were experiencing, or they felt they were experiencing, and therefore that would prevent them from doing their job. That they would come across as attention-seeking, which was interesting as well. And they also felt that the managers were just paying lip service to equality and diversity agendas, and therefore they didn't mean it. So that's what these people reported, which basically illustrates some of the thinking that I had last year, which I said to my colleagues, so I think that maybe what's happening is that we have a group of people within engineering who are not out because they either fear discrimination, but also they are spending a lot of energy just using neutral pronouns just to say, you know, my other half, what did you do during the weekends? Well, you know, just general stuff, whilst our heterosexual colleagues are very comfortable talking about their wives, their husbands, their children, what they did. In fact, at that event where I had this conversation with my colleagues, we had been at this lunch, everyone self-identified heterosexual colleagues, and myself, I was there, I don't have a partner at the moment, who we've been talking about what they did during the weekend. I learned every single bit of their families and everything that there was to know. And I thought, well, that situation where if I had had a partner or someone to refer to, I would have been very comfortable because I'm out. But other people are not, and therefore are spending quite a lot of energy not talking about their sexuality at work. So something to think about. Now, of this group of people, about 9% were women, which is about 3% different. The national average of the number of female engineers is 6% in this country, which is the lowest in Europe. Is another problem altogether, but it is a problem, not just for women in engineering, it's a problem for the LGBT community as well. Big time. So anyway, why is this important? And I'll tell you why this stat is important, because when I was asked by this colleague, why did it matter that not many people were out in engineering, or that we didn't know many people in engineering who were from the LGBT community? It can be because of fearing lack of progression and recognition. You've done very well and everyone knows you are gay. That's what this person said. And tongue in cheek, is that what you say? Tongue in cheek, I said, but I'm a gay woman. And she looked at me and she said, what do you mean by that? So I was being funny, but at the same time, I kind of wanted to say, a study after study showed that there is more tolerance to gay women than to gay men. That is a fact. There are 4 times, gay men are 4 times more likely to experience harassment and violence than women. There is a lot of evidence that if you don't adhere to social norms, there is a problem. And for us, for women, for lesbians, it's easier to challenge social norms. I can wear today a tie, which is something that people identify with male clothing. And I can, today I was told that I look chic. No one said, oh, you're wearing male clothing. It's not the same. I'm challenging a social norm, but I can get away with it a bit more easily than gay men can. And I think that's a point that I wanted to make with this colleague. But I'll come back to that point in a little while. So, as a consequence, highly dominated disciplines, highly male-dominated disciplines have a bigger problem. We have a bigger problem if this is the case. So men are more likely to experience discrimination, or at least fear discrimination from people, or harassment. Wow, I think I'm making it worse. I was going to talk to you about progression, and it seems like I'm saying we can't do it. No, that's not the point. The point is that I think it's important that we understand why the fears are there and where do they come from. Let me tell you why I think we can, should, and do progress. That's what I want to talk to you about. So let me just talk to you about, at the discussion panel that I was talking to you about, there was a senior partner from Irwin Mitchell, Jane Wright, who actually answered to the engineering student who asked the question, will I be able to progress? Will it affect my career? And she said, which I thought it was really interesting, she said, let me just quote her, LGBT staff tend to be more resilient, have learned to adapt, to succeed regardless of the barriers that they face, and organizations want them. And not only because of that, because of the resilience, but also because, she also added, in order to become more diverse and consequently increase the pool of innovative and talented staff, we need more people from different backgrounds. That's what she said. Also, around 2014, Ernst & Young, the former Ernst & Young, had done another piece of research, and they found that companies where staff feel more comfortable to be who they are had about 70K more in profit every year than organizations where staff didn't feel comfortable to be themselves. So that starts to tell us something. So in engineering, where we are facing a huge problem in terms of shortage of skills, we don't have a choice. We are looking for more staff. The big campaigns that we have about recruiting more women are to do with needing more staff. But not only that, we need talent. So our Pro-Chancellor in engineering said something recently. He said, half of the population are women, half of the engineering community should be women. So 20% of the workforce in the UK are from the LGBT community, at least 20%, we should have representation in engineering. So what I'm saying here is there is a huge need for more engineers. It doesn't matter where they are from, whether they are Mexican, lovely Mexicans, whether they are lovely Mexican gay women, and so on and so forth. It doesn't, it really doesn't matter. We are looking for more talent, diverse talent. The government, organizations, academics, the universities, we recognize that. But I wonder whether we, individuals, recognize that ourselves. And I think that's something that I wonder myself again and again and again, and I'll tell you why. Because I think we ought to challenge our own fears. And I'm mindful. I'm mindful of standing here and saying what it seems to be a slightly, an easy thing to say. Oh, well, we should just challenge our own fears. I'm mindful because I know that it's not easy. So when I first came out, some time ago, I had been married to a man for 8 years. And I remember calling my mom and dad to tell them, just get this picture here, please. Catholic, Mexican, only child. Just get it, please, there, because it is important here. And I called my mom and dad not only to tell them that I'm getting divorced, but why. And so I think, that's me. Don't you love it? Don't you just love it? I got green eyes or blue. Not to only tell them that I was getting divorced, but why. And believe me, they didn't take it very well. They didn't take it very well. Chalk doesn't cover it. But also, my mom took it worse than my dad, I think. But my dad, I think in retrospect, he didn't take it very well either, but he had to be strong for my mom. Now, what he did say, though, was, will it affect your career? Will you be able to progress? Bear in mind that my husband used to work where I work, so I had no choice but to come out to everyone. So it was not that I chose to do it, I had to do it. So I was outed by the situation, if you know what I mean. So I didn't have any choice, but somehow I wasn't scared. I suppose after telling my mom and dad, well. But I wasn't scared, and I wasn't fearful, and I don't know why. I don't know why that was. And that's what I said to my dad. And I said, no, I'll be fine. No one will discriminate against me. I'll be fine. I'll do my job. I'll do it as well as ever. And I won't be discriminated against. And I think when I said that to him, I said, if I am happy, which is the first time in my life that I will be, actually I should be better, and I should be able to do my job better, and I should be able to look, come on, like an LGBT engineer. Come on, I needed more from you. Thanks. You have no idea what I went through to get this done. And you are like, yeah. Seriously. Thank you. Now, I wanted to come back to that point where I said to my colleague, but I am a woman. Of course. No, that was as I said, tongue-in-cheek. I have been able to progress, not because I'm a woman, not because I'm gay, not because I'm Mexican, not because I'm any other than working bloody hard. If we look at other evidence, and this was a big study from some colleagues, Jodar and Matthijs, in 2014. It hasn't been published, but it was an accepted manuscript. They surveyed 1,500 people from English-speaking countries, and all LGBTQ colleagues, that's how they define, and asexual as well. They surveyed 1,500 people, and then the proportions were not very dissimilar to the other survey. About 40% were out, the other were not. But when asked about safetiness, welcoming workplace environment, and support, you find the same, and they were mostly academics and students in this survey. There were some industrialists, some practitioners as well, and they were STEM, wider than engineering as well. And what you see there is that 92% of the staff and student communities felt their workplace was safe. Very little, which is consistent with the discrimination bit that we saw earlier. Welcoming, welcome or treated the same as heterosexual, more heteronormative environment people. So 90% there. Here is where it's interesting. You see that there is 38% there who didn't know whether there was employee support, and 42 in terms of the students. And I think there is something here that we need to think about. Maybe environments are not being overtly supportive in terms of the support that is available. And there is an assumption that because people are welcoming and the environment is safe, that the LGBT community will feel safe and therefore welcomed. But if they are not aware of the support that is available, maybe that is what is causing the fear to come out. I'm not sure, but what I'm sure of is that again and again, we see more and more organizations who are saying out loud, we are working towards this. Now, progression is not about, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, and I know that, again, I with a lot of care in what I'm saying, please take it kindly from me. Progression is about the work that we do and how we do it, and whether if we have situations where we are being stopped from moving forward, we should not fear trying again and again and again. Sometimes it is our own perceptions of what's happening around rather than what is happening around. The few people who reported being really happy from the LGBT communities who completed these surveys were out completely. They were confident. They didn't feel like anyone could discriminate against them because they were doing their job. And I think that's another thing that we need to keep in mind. Is it, as a female engineer, I have as much chance of being discriminated against than as an LGBT, as a lesbian engineer. And as an international woman, also. And I can go on and on. I tick every single protected characteristic, by the way. But really, the reality is that I refuse to be discriminated against anything. I am who I am, and I'm not going to allow anyone to stop me. Because I really believe that I can do my job and do it better. And to me, it's more important. And I love my job. I really love my job. And I'm not going to stop because anyone might think that I don't care. Now, I know that this is easier to say, to be said than done, and that there are so many people who are really scared. and who wish that they would be able to be who they are for the first time in their lives. And I really wanted to finish this conversation, or at least this part of the conversation, by saying that really, some time ago here at the university, we did voices of the LGBT community, or stories of the LGBT community. And again and again, every single person said, it gets better. It does get better. It does get better. We have to keep telling telling everyone, it does get better. And there are so many organizations represented here, represented around the UK. When I did this blog, so many people were so supportive inter-engineering, people from the US, from Australia, from all over the world were saying, yes, 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 we need everyone to be supporting each other. Let's do that. Let's do that and tell everyone that it does get better. But I'll stop there and see what you want to tell me, but thank you very much.